Leaving nuance aside and condensing 3 decades of research and a vast body of supporting evidence into a phrase, we are now mesmerized by the least intelligent part of our brain. For reasons of survival, one hemisphere of the brain, the left, has evolved over millions of years to favor manipulation, grabbing, getting, and controlling, while the other, the right, has effectively been given sole charge of the task of understanding the whole picture. So conflicting are these goals that in humans, the hemispheres are largely sequestered one from the other. Our apparent ability these days to hear only what comes from the left hemisphere does not depend on the brain itself having radically changed in the last couple of centuries, though it is certainly always evolving. It's more like this. You buy a radio set, and you soon find a couple of channels worth listening to. For a host of reasons, after a while, you end up listening only to one. It's not the radio set that's changed, it's you. And in the case of the brain, it would not even have mattered so much if we'd settled on the intelligent channel. But we didn't. We settled on the one whose value is nothing to do with truth, nor with courage, magnanimity, and generosity, but only greed, grabbing, and getting, manipulation. And no, the difference between the hemispheres is not a myth that has been debunked. That itself is a myth that requires debunking, and which I've been rather successfully debunking for some while now. What definitely does need to be debunked is the bad old pop psychology story that the left hemisphere does reason and language, and maybe a bit dull, but is at least reliable, like a slightly boring accountant. And the right hemisphere does emotions and pictures, but is apt to be flighty and fey. All this is wrong, since we now know that each hemisphere is involved in everything, and that, for the record, the left hemisphere is less emotionally stable, as well as less intelligent, and I mean cognitively, as well as emotionally and socially, than the right. The right hemisphere is a far superior guide to reality. Delusions and hallucinations are much more frequent, grosser, and more persistent after damage to the right hemisphere than to the left. Without the right hemisphere to rely on, the left hemisphere is at sea. It quite literally denies the most obvious facts, lies, and makes stuff up when it doesn't know what it's talking about. And it is relentlessly, vacuously cheerful in the face of overwhelming disaster.